Hello and welcome to the African Tech Roundup, episode 73 for the week ending Monday, September 5th, 2016. This is where we round up the week's most important tech, digital, and innovation news from across the African continent. My name is Andile Masugu. Glad you could join me. In today's show, I'll be sharing more exclusive clips of conversations I had with people I met at Demo Africa 2016 that happened in Sandton, South Africa 2 weeks ago. Now keep it locked to hear snippets from conversations I had with the Principal Investment Officer for Africa at Singularity Investments, Lexi Novitska, the publisher of CIO East Africa magazine, who is also the CEO of Demo Africa, Harry Hare, as well as two promising startup founders who made it to the final pitching phase of this year's competition at Demo Africa, but didn't win a spot in the top five, Ismail Rakhdawi from Morocco and Brian Ondari from Kenya. Now that's all coming up later, but we'll have to get to this week's news headlines first, which include Mark Zuckerberg visiting Nigeria and Kenya to soak up the vibe of the two countries' tech scenes, the Nigerian government's decision to license 11 more international money remittance services, including WorldRemit, and South African transport tech company Where Is My Transport raising £1.16 million in funding. In the meantime, though, a special welcome to you if you're joining me for the first time. You can always catch up on all our past episodes whenever you like by clicking through to africantechroundup.com. You can also find us on Twitter at African Roundup or on Facebook at facebook.com/African Tech Roundup. And of course, if you'd like to contribute to the show, you can write us an email or send us an audio note via hello@africantechroundup.com. Now, this episode of the African Tech Roundup is brought to you by our sister podcast, African Tech Conversations. The series features relaxed, in-depth chats that I've had with leading entrepreneurs, innovators, and executives who are intimately involved in Africa's tech scene. Now, featured in the latest installment of the African Tech Conversations podcast is the illustrious Tommy Davies, who is widely considered the godfather of Africa's angel investment scene. He is the founding president of the African Business Angels Network, ABAN, and just happens to be a very wise man with a taste for the finer things in life.
What would your favorite Nigerian delicacy be?
Oh, I mean, my kitty antecedent shop, and that's pounded yam with egusi and stockfish.
Oh, man. All right. For those of us who speak English, what is that?
It's pounded yam with vegetable soup and stockfish.
Wow, stockfish would be the dried one.
Yeah, it's just the dry fish that's then soaked. I think it's the Norwegians or the Scandinavians that, it's a long dried fish, and when it comes to us, then it's soaked and then it's cooked with a vegetable.
Ah, yes. The show brings you Africa's tech thought leaders like you've never heard them before. To listen, simply head to our SoundCloud account at soundcloud.com/African Tech Roundup. And all you need to do is click on the African Tech Conversations playlist and listen away. But now it's time to get into this week's news. First up, in a week that saw the Nigerian economy officially slip into recession, Mark Zuckerberg's trip to the continent dominated headlines in that country, and his visit to Nigeria and indeed Kenya was largely met with enthusiasm, it seems. He made a series of surprise visits, quote-unquote surprise, to some of the continent's biggest tech hubs, starting with the co-creation hub in Lagos, where he met with key players in the Nigerian tech ecosystem, including the team at the coding talent platform Andela, which, of course, is an initiative that Mark and his wife Priscilla Chan have invested in through their foundation. Now, this particular visit was dubbed by a senior team member at Andela as, quote, a reverse pilgrimage of sorts, because I suppose that speaks to how many techies on the continent must dream about visiting Silicon Valley at some point in their lives and perhaps bumping into Mark Zuckerberg. But hey, how much more fun if he just pops into the office? Well, Mark spent some time in Nairobi also, where he visited iHub and had lunch with the Kenyan Cabinet Secretary of Information and Communications, Mr. Joseph Mucheru, before heading back to Nigeria to look in on the Aso Villa Demo Day finale. Now, his trip saw him do a fair amount of the obligatory hobnobbing with politicians like Nigeria's first citizen, President Buhari, who he actually suited up to meet. Now, some people who initially thought that Mark had plans to snub the president and duck without meeting him. Twitter has no chill. Of course, that wasn't the case. He just, happened to meet the president only after he got back from Kenya. There was a keynote address and a Q&A session he made while he was on the continent. And in that talk, Mark kept his tone congenial and inspirational. I reckon it's quite a talent when you can make Facebook, in their unbridled aspiration to totally dominate the world, sound like something that just kind of makes sense for everybody, and that does take some doing. But all in all, it's fair to say that Mark Zuckerberg came out winning in the PR stakes, which I guess is good for him. But then the news of the ground explosion of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket, which of course had Facebook's Internet.org satellite on board, kind of took the shine off things. The launch was planned for last Saturday, but it was no doubt meant to be the cherry on the cake as far as his visit to Africa was concerned. Of course, the satellite, the Amos 6, designed to beam internet access into remote parts of the developing world, not least in Africa, was meant to be this beacon of hope for all the impoverished to remain unconnected. But it was not to be. Instead of celebrating Facebook's next big step towards delivering Facebook-branded internet to the developing world via the satellite, Mark was compelled to express his disappointment at the disaster, which he called, quote, SpaceX's launch failure. And he did indeed promise that this setback would not prevent Facebook on making good on its intent to beam blue internet into the lives of the world's poorest people. So, as he puts it, Facebook's commitment to connecting the world will not be deterred. And cue violence. Or not. Moving on. It's good news if you're a World Remit customer, or indeed a regular customer of at least 10 other remittance platforms that had previously been banned from operating in Nigeria till this past week. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, has now approved international money transfer operators whose operations had been suspended since August this year. The ban saw hundreds of IMTOs suspend their operations, leaving the Nigerian diaspora to rely on only 3 operators, namely Western Union, MoneyGram, and Ria. It must have been a pretty lucrative 3 weeks for those 3. Nonetheless, World Remit was certainly one of the more vocal, high-profile operators who only got permission to operate this past week. The CBN really is trying to bring order to an industry that would typically see an estimated 50-odd% of all remittances made to Nigeria go through unregulated informal networks. Now, that's clearly not a good thing for many reasons. And now, while people have been upset and in many cases inconvenienced by the CBN's attempt to rein things in, I think we can all agree that on some level, the fact that they are at least trying to curb illicit money transfers is at least a good thing, and perhaps be patient with them, and here's to hoping that they find a solution that doesn't further inconvenience Nigerians living all over the world. We'll keep you posted on developments in that area. Now, staying with West African news, the launch of the region's first Mirror project is set to make open source software easier to access. Now, web hosting company Web for Africa has announced the launch of the Nigerian Mirror project, which is poised to bring free and open source content closer to end users in West Africa through servers physically hosted in Nigeria. Now, the project aims to drastically improve download speeds and availability of free and open source software in Nigeria by bringing the content closer to the user and making the experience better by allowing for faster download. Currently, the Mirror hosts the full repositories of Ubuntu, CentOS, which of course are both Linux operating systems, as well as the Python package index. Ubuntu and CentOS have given the project their nod of approval and have integrated it into their official distribution network. So, West African coders, how excited are you by this news? Give us a shout. Let us know how you feel. Twitter handle is @AfricanRoundup. To notable investment news next, the company Box, that's Box with a double B and a double X, the off-grid solar energy company, has landed a $20 million Series C investment to expand operations in Kenya and Rwanda. Now, Box's model is unique in that they not only design their own household solar-powered products, but they manufacture them as well. Now, according to the company, they've sold more than 70,000 Box products in over 35 countries so far, and they claim to have provided off-grid power to over 350,000 people. That's nothing to sneeze at, folks. Now, the investment comes courtesy of the likes of McKinnon, Kawisafi Ventures, and other investors, and should go some way to helping Box achieve their lofty vision of reaching 20 million people by the year 2020. The folks over at Box are certainly dreaming big. Now, meanwhile, in South Africa, transport tech company Where Is My Transport has raised £1.165 million from Goodwell Ventures with participation from the Omidja Network and Horizon Ventures. Now, they've also opened their API up to developers who might be interested in building journey planning applications such as fare estimators, or create applications that serve analytics for more informed infrastructure investment and city planning, as well as engineering messaging capabilities to help optimize journeys affected by delays and cancellations. Now, the money is the first closing of a £2 million seed round, and the startup aims to transform transport in emerging cities by using data on formal and informal transportation from static and real-time sources. Now, last year, the firm raised an estimated $900,000 to launch an office in London, which clearly is paying off now. If the latest investments they've landed is anything to go by. But I'm sure the pressure is definitely on for them now to demonstrate how they will do what precious few startups ever managed to do, even after landing massive investment, which is grow revenues and profits. Now, finally, as the great space race to building an autonomous vehicle as well as an AI-enabled ride-hailing service continues across the world, competition in Kenya's taxi-hailing industry continues to hot up. Now, this past week saw a new entrant called Taxi Chap Chap join the party. The company says it's been studying the market and running pilots for the past 6 months. And one of their spokesmen has claimed that their unique security measures will set them apart from the rest. You know, the likes of Uber, Mondo Rides, Maramoja, Little, and the recently launched Taxify, which is trying to differentiate by being an open platform to all the older taxi cabs that don't make the cut to join the likes of Uber and Little, which have much more stricter guidelines around the age of cars. Last week, we reported on Little's USSD ride-hailing capabilities. They, of course, touted this as a move to help the company spread to areas where users might not have smartphones, might still use feature phones. There's a lot of attempt at trying to differentiate from each other, which is good. I think it bodes well for the consumer. I do think that the market is far too small for all of them to win. It should be interesting to see who actually wins out in the end. It's hard to imagine, though, that Taxi Chap Chap, will garner sufficient interest and sign up enough users by simply promising 2 lucky winners to, a flight to Dubai if they download the app between the 1st and the 30th of September. Nonetheless, we do wish them well. We wish them all well. And meanwhile, of course, Uber's homegrown rival in Egypt, a company called Ouster, has this week secured a 1.25 million bridge investment led by angel investors and VCs in Egypt and the UAE. They plan to use the money to expand rapidly into more cities, presumably to gain first move advantage in some of them. They already are in 11 cities. I suppose they're looking to consolidate their homegrown advantage, if that's even a thing. And now, those are the week's headlines, folks. And now, as promised, I'm going to share more highlights from Demo Africa 2016. We'll start first with a snippet from my chat with Harry Hare, the publisher of CIO East Africa magazine, as well as the CEO of Demo Africa. Now, he is telling me how high-level partnerships have been key to delivering on the mandate that Demo Africa has to produce a live interactive platform to empower startup founders. Take a listen.
Covering tech news across the continent and its evolution, certainly in the last 2 years, I'd have to say that partnerships are probably the biggest, most important thing with regards to creating the kind of glue that will set our ecosystem properly, if you understand what I'm saying. And tell us about the level of partnerships and how important they've been to making an initiative like this, not just another conference, not just another pitching contest. And tell us who you're involved with, man.
So one of the biggest supporters of Demo is a partnership called the Lions Africa. And the Lions Africa came together to actually specifically look at the African entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem and say, hey guys, there's so many people doing different things all over the place. Why don't we come together and have some kind of a unified approach to helping entrepreneurs? So in the Lions partnership, we have the U.S. State Department, we have Microsoft, we have Intel. So most of the big IT companies, but also we have government agencies. So local, like in South Africa now, the city of Johannesburg now is part of the Lions Africa initiative. In Lagos we have the National IT Development Authority, NITA, as part of the Lions initiative. In Kenya we have the ICT Authority of Kenya as part of the partnership. So the World Bank is also part of the of the Lions Initiative. So is the African Development Bank. So, when you have those kind of partners, then it becomes, because they don't need to give you money. All they need to do is bring their brand into the initiative that you're working with. And, their brand opens doors. Their brand makes you be able to do things in a different way. And those have actually been the force behind Demo Africa.
Yeah, it really elevates a well-meaning initiative into, like, really, quite frankly, a life-changing one, an impactful one. So tell me a little bit about the importance of the angel community on the continent coming together and supporting initiatives like this. We certainly don't have as prolific an angel investor setup as, say, Silicon Valley might have, say, other hotspots like London, maybe, Tel Aviv. What would you say to angels listening to this podcast who are thinking about dabbling in investing in the tech and innovation scene?
So interesting, because from the onset, we knew that we needed to bring in angel investors into the room and onto the table. So we partnered. Actually, initially we actually used to have a separate process where we actually involve angel investors and get them excited about investing in Africa, and also just showing them the opportunities, because a lot of them don't know that there are opportunities in investing in tech. A lot of them are into property and construction and really big things, but we need to show them that there's a lot of opportunity, and your return on investment could even be faster in investing in tech. So we were very, very aware of that, and we are actually part of the founding members. Demo Africa is one of the founding members of African Business Angels Network.
Right, and that's, I believe, their founding president would be Tommy Davies, the godfather of of angel investing on the continent?
Correct. So we are part of that, and we've been helping ABAN to reach out to different countries and planting the angel investment bag. So we were so excited to hear that South Africa now has an angel network, SA-BAN. I don't know whether they call it, whether it's SABAN or SA-BAN.
I think they said SA-BAN, eh?
Okay, so SA-BAN. And the idea is to keep on increasing these networks and bringing them together, so that we can see deals happening and we can see syndications of deals happening, so that we can be able to say, okay, we're launching 30 startups, and all those 30 startups, if you have a good business, then you're likely or most likely to get an investment from an angel or from an angel network.
Next, I spoke to the Principal Investment Officer for Africa at Singularity Investments, Lexi Novitska. Now, Lexi is based in Lagos and has unique insights on picking winning investments in a continent that has a notorious dearth of data. Now, in spite of this, Lexi believes that Africa could very well deliver the world's next unicorn. Take a listen.
And now, you've had an extensive career working in investments, much of it here on the continent, at least some of it, and part of it elsewhere. Please tell me, from an investment standpoint, what's different about seeking out the best investments on the continent versus, say, other places you've had to do this job?
Well, a couple of things. I think that companies certainly find me easier. I don't have a problem with deal flow, that's for sure. In terms of actually finding the quality ones, though, it's much tougher. And we see a lot of teams that probably haven't had the professional experience in their industry trying to build a venture around it. And that's, a lot of case when there's very low unemployment in general. You see that the cost benefit of starting a business makes a lot more sense to these people, but they haven't actually had the experience working in the industry. Of course, cost of capital is much higher. So you see companies that also probably haven't had the angel financing in earlier rounds, which means that they're either not growing as fast as they should, maybe don't have the mentorship as well that comes along with that angel capital, and we come in at a little later stage, so a lot of those companies are too early for us, and that's definitely something we've seen a lot of.
Please unpack the word quality used in your statement just now. What's loaded in that word in terms of the way you think of Singularity around the quality of an investment?
So there's a couple of things that we look at, and this is Singularity specific. It's really important to us that the business model itself has massive scale potential. We're not really focused on the Lagos only models. Another aspect is that it's a a new technology. We're not very attracted to kind of the copycat models. The Africa Internet Group sort of guys trying to take something that's worked in another economy and bring it to Africa. That's not as attractive to us.
Ooh, shots fired.
Ooh. What is much more attractive, and we see especially the local environment as being a good incubator for kind of those technologies that maybe work best in Africa when they're growing and trying to test the model, but are really globally scalable. So that in terms of business model. In terms of teams, certainly having the either experience working at a company, the entrepreneurial background of having successful ventures or even unsuccessful ventures and learning from them is also important. And certainly unit economics and traction. Those are two things that I think are necessary for us. We're not super attracted to CapEx heavy models up front or models that are driven by substantial marketing spend. So we really do look closely at unit economics as well.
Okay, well, that's sort of strange to me because a lot of the rhetoric around the difficulty VCs have in terms of finding investment, some of the rhetoric includes the fact that the investments aren't at the right size. So I would have thought the bigger the better on some level, right? But you're not looking for huge capex up front. I don't know. How does that work?
So size isn't always necessarily better.
Fair enough. But I mean, for a lot of people, they feel the pipeline is not delivering the sort of value or investable value from a size standpoint, even if it were to deliver value,
Right. So maybe I should clarify a little bit. Software-focused models are attractive to us. Hardware-focused models are less attractive. So there are certainly some cases where we're looking at hardware-focused models, but the problem you have with that is they have to come up with the capex up front, finance the assembly of their items, and then try to distribute, and usually their sales cycles are much longer. So if that company had a bit of traction already and it was already moving, or if it was a situation where you could actually make the business model for them, and that's often the case if they're marketing especially to the mobile network operators, then it could make sense, but otherwise we tend to stay away from those business models.
How weighted is singularity in a certain space in tech? Is there a certain pet area for you guys at the moment?
Yeah, so there's several. Generally, we really like mobile services when we're talking about B2C. So technology that leverages off of the massive distribution network of the mobile network operators. On the B2B place, we also like services that especially cut costs to major industry players, particularly in the telco space. We like cutting costs more than building additional revenue for them. We think that that's actually a place that's underpenetrated a lot or not focused on enough. We certainly like some natural monopoly plays that have happened across Africa, and that's a space we look at. I also very much like the business models that focus on the Black woman globally as a consumer. So I think that's something that a business model can sort of start here but expand globally to the Black woman globally. Also, there's a lot around fintech that we're focused on as well. Just really solving the right problem at the right time is important.
Right, and so in terms of scalability, you seek in the investments you'd like to sink, cash into, do you think regionally or do you think internationally primarily? Beyond the borders of the continent is what I mean. Do you like businesses that focus more on potential on the continent or on potential around the world?
Potential around the world for me. And for us, it's probably important to mention that I'm very entrepreneur agnostic. So I don't need my entrepreneur to be African. They can also be European or American with an Africa-focused business model. So we see a lot of those guys who are coming in Nigeria as their first market, but they would expand globally as well.
The problem I might have with that is the idea that in a global context, I find that true innovation happens on the continent far more than I'd say it happens elsewhere, in the sense that, the definition of innovation in the developing world might involve, being able to book my movie tickets so much easier than I did before, or being able to catch an imaginary animal in the park or something like that. Whereas there might be very Africa-specific issues that are important to solve that might not be pain points in a more developed market. Does that mean if I have that kind of idea and I'm listening to this, I shouldn't even bother giving you guys a shout?
Well, they also might be pain points in other emerging markets, right? So it doesn't have to be just Africa or just Lagos focused. The point that I was trying to make is that I think that in an economy like, I'll take Nigeria for example, because that's where I spend most of my time, where you have a very unloyal mobile subscriber base, so they're willing to switch networks very quickly, incredibly price sensitive consumer base, and also mobile network industry that has to roll out to rural areas under regulatory constraints, but these areas are places where the average revenue per user doesn't really make sense given their high capex model. All of those factors are very unique to Nigeria, with a large population, that actually make developing technologies that suit that market and incubating them there. It's the most ideal environment to do that, but these business models might also work in the U.S. as maybe there's higher switching costs there, so they'd have to be tested and proved in other markets as well.
And where do you think this trend towards, say, the Lagos, the quote-unquote Lagos only or Lagos first, the drive towards Lagos only or Lagos first, where do you think that comes from? And do you think it's grounded in business fundamentals?
Well, it's certainly grounded in macro factors, right? I mean, people are seeing it's a massive population that's been underpenetrated with services. First-time smartphone users having access to all of these new goods and services, so it's an extremely attractive market.
Why would anyone start a business and basically say, I'm not interested in the rest of the world?
I don't know, but many are. And look, I was just on a panel with Jason Njoku, and he said actually exactly that. He's not interested in even other metro areas outside of Lagos in Nigeria. He thinks that there's enough consumer base there to grow healthy, happy businesses, and he's probably right. But for us, it's just not the scale we're looking for. I'm willing to take some of those longer bets and hopefully have a unicorn. And I do think that there are unicorn potentials that can happen in this market.
Let's talk about that, because I feel like there might be an unhealthy fascination around the idea that the next unicorn could come out of Africa. Not that I have an issue with, I have any issue being open to the idea or even optimistic that it could happen, but I just feel like, isn't it like an there might be slight over-enthusiasm in that direction, and it might in fact harm the pragmatism startup founders need to have in order to just survive what may be 5 years of nothingness before maybe something happens,
Yeah, look, I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, if you look at Asia 10 years ago, they certainly had a burgeoning entrepreneurship and tech ecosystem, and now there's been a lot of unicorns that have come out of that space. I'm not saying that should be an entrepreneur's focus, getting to be a great big company, or something even that will attract Silicon Valley money, which is a lot cheaper, by the way, and it is attractive to get that money into your company. But I do think that we'll see a lot more of that coming from this continent. I mean, there's a massive population that you can really distribute services over the mobile devices, higher uptake than any other market, and some great entrepreneurs starting businesses. So I think that certainly will happen.
There's a profound data scarcity on the continent that continues to pervade pretty much every industry. And one wonders, I know you've got... You were a business analyst many years ago. You had to grapple with data, and certainly as an investor, one likes to think that many of the decisions you make are based on data. And whereas for Africa, this is a massive blind spot for all of us involved in starting and investing in businesses on the continent. How do you balance your background in crunching data, or at least using data to make informed decisions, with now leading investment drives on the continent, without it, or at least with much less than you might have wanted or needed.
Yeah, so that's definitely a problem. I do think that founders are focusing a lot more on that internally, and I love founders that tear apart, who their customer base, how they're acting on their app or their website, and look at kind of as much data as they can once they've launched. I also think that that's a huge revenue opportunity for companies to kind of monetize that data, and a lot of the companies we're invested in, that's part of their revenue model as well. In terms of investing without the data, I think that's why you have to also be on the ground. The information isn't there, but being on the ground and actually, speaking to people, feeling it every day, it's a due diligence hack. I mean, there's no other way.
And as a percentage of the deals that you see through, out of 10, how many of them are actually hunches based on what you just said?
How many
deals would you typically close out of 10? Say out of every 10 would be based on experience, an intuitive understanding of the environment you're in, as opposed to, say, data on a screen.
So 10 out of 10.
What? Really?
There's at least a factor of that in every company that I've invested in. I mean, look, some have business models that we have worked in. I'm contradicting myself now, because they're business models that have worked in other emerging markets, and now we're trying to sort of replicate that in an African context. By the way,
so there is some data, and certainly but that's not something you'd like typically, like copycats necessarily.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way, it's not working the same way we thought it would, because it's a totally different market. But yeah, we look at numbers, but at the end of the day, the amount we can rely on it. It's hard when you don't have a lot of information, and hopefully that'll get to be better and better over the next couple of years, and I think it will. People need to share their data more.
Now, Harry Hare will tell you that at the heart of why Demo Africa exists is a burden to add value to startup founders like Ismail Rakhdawi from Morocco and Brian Ondari from Kenya. Now, first I'll play you a clip where I catch up with Ismail just moments after he had pitched his startup to the judges at Demo Africa 2016. And I asked him to tell me a little bit about his Wi-Fi startup, Nextwe. And in doing so, I got to peek into the psyche of this young startup founder. Take a listen.
Tell the people what you do in Morocco. What's your startup all about? What's it called?
So actually, our startup is called Nextwe. Nextwe, we are building the best Wi-Fi user experience for businesses. Actually, what we do is we help business owners in hotels, industry, restaurants, coffee shop. It's we help them to maintain and increase their customer retention rate. So this is basically what we are doing.
Sounds good. Who are you dealing with? Are you dealing with people in retail? Are you dealing with events like this conference that we're at right now? Who's your target audience for this service?
Actually, our target audience is every single people is working in hospitality industry, like hotels, restaurants, coffee shops, even in events. So this is actually how we are dealing with our target. Yeah, but to reach, I think the question is how to reach this target. Actually, we are going in one-to-one interview and door-to-door sales. So this is how we reach our customers.
And tell me a little bit about the problem you're solving for these people. What problem are you solving for the hospitality industry?
Okay, so every single people is involved in hospitality industry. Know that it's so hard to acquire customers, and even if you acquire customers, it's more difficult to keep them returning. So this is mainly for two reasons. There is a huge competition in this field, and secondly, there's customers who came to the venue, like a hotel, they left no data behind them. So this organization doesn't have any data about the customer, and you don't know how to engage with them or keep in contact with them after they leave. So this is we are trying to do. It's like marketing proximity to engage with your customer while they are in the venue. So
okay, so let's assume I'm a hotel. I say I definitely want to buy into your service. How does it roll out? And what's the customer experience like?
The customer experience basically is if you want to connect to our Wi-Fi system, you have to you should connect using one of your social profiles like Facebook, Google+, Twitter, etc. And once you use it, we just give you free and unlimited Wi-Fi access. But this is like the user experience. But behind the scene, we have like web-based interface that we allow merchant to access to them, and they can get like whole details and data and insights, analytics about the customer. So they can know more. They can know them more and know how to engage with them and keep them returning using this data.
So from a coding perspective, your platform interacts with the API of the various social networks, does it?
Exactly, yeah. We are like integrating social network API with Wi-Fi technology. So it's like a hybrid of two technology, basically, yeah.
And then, of course, as the customer or the client of the business, I enjoy free Wi-Fi, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, exactly.
Great for the brand.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You enjoy the Wi-Fi, you don't pay any cent to get it, and it's unlimited and secure.
And so, Ishmael, how old are you, man?
I have 26 years old.
And what did you study? How did you end up coming up with the solution?
Actually, I don't have like any experience, like professional experience. I just after getting my engineering degrees in networking science, I decided to start my own company. So it was great venture. It was like 1 year and a half that we are running this business, and it's going well.
And are you cash flow positive? Are you profitable yet, or are you pre-revenue?
Actually, we are revenue stage. Yeah. So we are like we said covering our expense. So, but we are growing slowly but surely.
So what are you going to do if you win this competition, man?
I just go home and sleep and have a coffee. I'm so tired, man. So I did like 18 hours flight. So just enjoy the time and enjoy the show.
We actually forget how far Morocco is from this part of the world. We're obviously in South Africa. Morocco is way up north. Tell me some of the immediate differences culturally that you've experienced flying over the Sahara, over East Africa and Central Africa, all the way down to the south. What have you experienced getting off the plane, experiencing the culture of Johannesburg and at this conference? What's the biggest thing that just hit you in the face?
Actually, I visit like many countries, but this one is like South Africa is like, I feel like it's different things, It's very weird for me. There are like no contact with Morocco and South Africa. There's a huge difference between the both countries. So like even to find something to food like to eat, I struggle a lot to find. So this is like what something I didn't like, but Johannesburg, it's very advanced country, and I just like and it seems like it's not part of Africa, It's very huge, it's very advanced country, yeah.
And so, what are some of the things that were the same? What if you could pick anything that you could sense that was similar between Morocco and your experience here in Johannesburg?
As a human, we are all African, so are all sharing the same continent. So, the human is something that we share together, yeah.
And tell me, what does your family make of the path that you've chosen? It's a very difficult path. You've put a lot of time and passion in this business. You said 1.5 years about. What have you sacrificed in order to do this, and what does your family think about it?
Yeah, actually, my family is supporting me. Sometimes, like I had to work for 18 hours a day, and it's very tough things. And just like to get this initial investment, they helped me a lot. So they are supporting me, and even when things like go tricky, I find them here to help me and support me. So basically, they trust me, and they know that I'm a guy that can do it, and actually I will do it.
I like that. There's that swag again, man.
Yeah, you should be confident. It's entrepreneurship. It's not about getting a job, but you have to create the job and create the value. If you're not confident, I don't know if someone will partner with you or trust you to do business or buy your product even. You should have like this self-confidence and not over. So.
Can I ask you this really tough, maybe even unfair question? What if this doesn't work out, man?
I will try out other things, It's life. We are not sure always that things, like it's not always things are going as expected, but I think it's just with hard working, patience and perseverance, you can make it. You can make it, yeah.
So finally, take a listen to this chat I had with Brian Ondari, whose startup Airclip aims to help students and administrators stay organized. The idea for his startup came to him because of a problem he experienced while he was a student. And so here he is telling me about his homegrown solution to a very African problem.
So tell me a little bit about the business and what it does. Who are you guys? What problems are you out to solve?
The easiest way I always tell about the story of Airclip is from a personal story. So a few years ago, I was a student and I sat for my end semester exams. And it didn't take me long to realize I was actually sitting for the wrong exam. To cut the long story short, a few weeks later the results were out and I failed the test. It's not that I didn't read, it's just that I read the wrong exam schedule. So this is a problem that lots of students out there can relate to. From missing classes to handing in assignments late to conflicting classes that the school can't really do anything about. So you can actually imagine how many students are walking out there confused about the static data the school is giving. What most universities do, also in Kenya, right now is they print out the exam schedules or the school timetable schedules and paste it on a notice board. Few days or few hours later, the information has changed and someone will just walk by the timetable on the notice board and read all the wrong stuff. So that's something that happened to me, and that's how we started the whole idea of building a live timetable for students.
I see. So who are you targeting with the solution? Are you targeting the institutions that need to find a more efficient way to communicate, or are you targeting students who are looking for a more efficient way to make sure they've got the right information?
Statistics have it that by the year 2025, there will be close to 265 million university students. And this is a population that we really want to tap into. So how we're doing this is, one, we're giving students an effective real-time communication channel. Think of Airclip as a Slack for students. If you've used Slack, think of it as a Slack for students, where students get reminded of what's happening real-time. They can keep track of their assignments. They can view what other classmates of theirs are sharing. For schools, we are giving them data that is helping them as a school better plan for their students. And secondly, give value for information, give value for money that the students are paying. And it's not even about the whole business that we think of it as a company, but one thing we're passionate of is how do we empower students to achieve their academic goals. The country I come from, Kenya, has a dropout rate of 32%. That's a serious thing. Students are dropping out of campus every day for various reasons. I have a friend of mine who dropped out of campus just because she got a kid. It's a big concern. Just that the hassles of school and having a kid, she couldn't be able to manage. I have friends right now who cannot really tell how the degree they're taking is relevant to the job market. It's a big concern. I have friends who are working part-time and still can't juggle between school and work. So as a platform, this is something we feel that at the end of it all has a very huge impact on how students achieve their academic goals at the end of it all. And considering all the data they provide on a day-to-day basis, we can tap into this information and help them achieve their goals.
And so explain the model to me. How do you make money off this platform? Sounds like you're out to do very good altruistic things. How do you survive?
Yeah, the big question, how do we make money? And everyone is always asking us, how do you make money? Yeah. So we have our users being the students. It's a free platform for them. We have our customers being schools. So for the schools, we have a model where they pay subscriptions to access critical information about students. How are students rating the course they're taking? How many students are there on campus at a specific point in time? So this helps the universities better plan for these students. Another key thing is, as a platform, and we value, is most of the students everything is always, all their time is always planned for them by the school. So as a platform, we always know how many students are free at specific points in time. So we take this information, all still on our subscription model. We give this information to businesses so that they can make business intelligence out of it. I can give you an interesting case we had a few months ago when we were running a beta test. We realized we had a group of students, their classes were ending on Thursday, and a tour company organized a tour for these students because the classes were ending on Thursday and the next class is on Friday. So this is business intelligence for this business.
Right, and so the way you think about it, do you think about this as a solution or a solution for Kenya or a solution that could work anywhere else? What approach do you take to growing this business? What are your dreams in that regard?
Okay. Good question. And how we look at AirClip, it's more of a free platform that we are letting students, one, achieve their academic goals and still having fun and seeing the importance of being in a good education system. So a key milestone for us is a few months ago, we got accepted at the Global Incubator Network in Vienna as part of the 10 most innovative companies around the world. And we feel this is a good opportunity for us as a company to grow, to reach more students out there in the world and help them achieve their goals. In a few months from now, we'll be launching our third version of AirClip. We call it AirClip Aura. And with this platform, we're looking forward to a scenario where students will have more freedom to engage on the platform. So instead of just having Kenyan students on the platform, we are going to open up the system to every student around the world.
A big thank you to Harry Hari of Demo Africa, Lexi Novitska of Singularity, Ishmael Rakhtawi of NextWe, and Brian Ondari of AirClip. And during the course of this week, we'll be sharing the full conversations I had with these folks on our SoundCloud account. You'll find them all in the Quick Chats playlist, so do look out for that. And you can find us on soundcloud.com/African Tech Roundup. And so that's the week's show, folks. But once again, this episode of the African Tech Roundup is brought to you by our sister podcast, African Tech Conversations. The series features relaxed, in-depth chats that I've had with leading entrepreneurs, innovators, and executives who are intimately involved in Africa's tech scene. Now, of course, the latest installment of the African Tech Conversations podcast features the illustrious Tommy Davies and is certainly worth a listen. Just head straight to our SoundCloud account at soundcloud.com/African Tech Roundup and click on the African Tech Conversations playlist when you get there. And so that does it for this week. Do catch the show again next week, Monday, on AfricanTechRoundup.com at 9 a.m. Central African Time. Until then, I'm Andile Masubu. Take it easy, Africa.